the schools have been shot up again. Now, obviously, a school shooting is really nothing new in America. In fact, it's actually fairly quite common, that being a problem in and of itself. But again, this shooting inside of an elementary school in Texas speaks much more to the situation that the United States has outside of merely the issue of gun ownership. One thing that they always forget is that Americans want to shoot each other. That's the issue here. It always bears reminding, because it always requires reminding, that guns are inanimate objects. They cannot hurt anyone unless somebody takes action upon them. And that even if you get rid of guns, Americans are still going to kill each other. Because they want to kill each other. And that issue is not being addressed. That is not being dealt with. Now, conservatives are quick to point out that it's mental illness, which to a degree is true. But then they turn around and deny mental health services to everyone. Sorry, but the average regular working person or poor person or lumpen person can't actually afford to go to a psychiatrist because they're very expensive. Not to mention, they often can't go to a doctor for their regular physical health too, because that's also very expensive. But this expanding into the idea of universal medicine being available is a whole separate video, which doesn't even need to be done. It should be obvious by now. You see, when stuff happens like this, liberals will never deal with the issue that Americans want to kill each other. They only look at the means, not the motive. There's nothing you can do about the opportunity, but there is something you do about the means. And there sure is something you can do about the motive that nobody wants to do. And that is alienation. Now, you being my audience, I don't have to explain to you what capitalist alienation is. That, of course, being when you have people that are disconnected from each other. There's no real sense of community because they are alienated from their labor, the products of their labor, their contribution to the labor process. Nothing to do with supposedly community comes from religion or some kind of nonsense idea like that, because there was tremendous and is tremendous communities in societies that are straight up atheist. The Soviet Union was like mostly atheist, and they didn't have this problem. The DPRK has a very low crime rate, and religion is almost non-existent there. So clearly there's something else. Something else is causing it, not a lack of religion. That's just something people who like to ram their religion onto other people like to say. Sure, you could get some measure of social cohesion, but it's not going to solve the problem. Because if we haven't seen anything from history, I mean, there's been plenty of violence and killing because of religion, not in spite of it. But I digress. I don't think I have to convince you that socialism is the way forward, you being my audience. But we do see another thing here. Motive. We keep seeing, white supremacy shooters. A guy walks into a church and shoots up a bunch of people. A guy walks into a mosque and shoots up a bunch of people. A guy doesn't like black people, so he walks into a black neighborhood in Buffalo and shoots up a bunch of people. There's a motive that's not being dealt with. And that's constantly a problem. The people who say the United States is not a white supremacist society clearly hasn't been paying attention, is in denial, or is part of the problem. So people are always thinking about the means, and the means are the guns, but nobody's thinking about the motive. And the motive is what's important. To be perfectly honest, you could say that there isn't America, and I'll say this, America doesn't have a gun problem. Guns have an America problem. Guns have a white supremacy problem. Because nobody generally has a problem with somebody owning a gun to protect their families. I mean, that's fine. The problem is white supremacy. You mix white supremacy with guns, you have a problem. You mix fascism with guns, you've got an even bigger problem. That's the issue there. But nobody's talking about banning Nazis. I mean, we should, but, you know, that's... The first world is what the first world is. America gonna be America. But you catch my drift. You see what I'm saying? We shouldn't be anti-gun. Because, as anyone ever noticed, these right-wing militias already have guns. Neo-Nazis already have guns. Fascists already have guns. You kind of need them too. I mean, even when you see like regular lumpen people on the street, their reaction to gun violence isn't to get rid of guns. Their idea is to get guns for themselves, to protect themselves. I mean, God knows if I lived in the United States, I would have a good deal of, you know, guns as well to defend myself. Why wouldn't you have a gun in American society, considering how freaking dangerous it is? Considering how many, like, effing psychos are out there, how many Nazis, white supremacists, and yeah, to a degree, mental illness certainly is a problem, because it's going untreated like every other medical problem in the United States. But it should never be about banning guns. I mean, Marx makes this very clear. Under no pretext should arms be taken away from the proletariat. If you are proletarian, or if you're lumpen, or anything along that level, and you advocate getting rid of guns, you should be considered a class traitor. Because why else? Would you deny that class struggle is going on? That there is no contradiction between the rich and the poor? Between capital and labor? Between those who own the means of production and those who work in them? Or don't have any work at all? We should see these people for what they are. You know, class collaborators, you know, class traitors, etc. Because just remember, you see this? These guys didn't fight Nazis with banning guns and harsh words and criticisms and mental health programs or anything like that. That's what we have to be worried about is Nazis, fascists, white supremacists, etc. That's what we need to worry about. And they're a million times more of a problem than anything that's ever come out of Al-Qaeda or ISIS or anything. Now, ISIS has been a problem for countries over there, not really over here. Anything they've done here is infinitesimal compared to the damage that fascists, white supremacists, neo-Nazis have ever done. And that's something we need to keep in mind. Because the system is always trying to tell us that the great other is the enemy. It's the Islamists. It's the Soviet Union. It's the Chinese. It's the brown people. It's the Mexicans. It's every other. But never looking inward to the problem. The problems within society itself that drives the violence. You could give them unending statistics about how much more peaceful immigrants are, even illegal immigrants. And they're not going to listen. Because they would have to take the lens of criticism and focus it on themselves, which they don't want to do. We already know what the problem is. We already know it's alienation. We already know it's supremacist right-wing ideology. It's a matter of getting the general public to finally acknowledge that's a problem. Good luck with that. That has been an ongoing struggle for many, many decades. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.